kids ever had a bad cold, a flu, measles, maybe a bad run of COVID?
You might want to start over. I think it got cut off.
Damn it. What the hell do you want me to say?
Well, whatever the hell you were going to say.
Children and parents, have you ever suffered from severe diseases such as colds, flus, measles, any
Allergies.
severe inj any severe
Seasonal
injuries
allergies.
from any severe injuries from any traffic accidents and or violent acts? Don't worry. We here at St. Shelley's Memorial Hospital are here to take care of you. Sure, it will be a little weird. Strange cases. Sometimes you'll see a monster running around once or twice. Your doctor may look a little paler than usual, may have a third eye somewhere, and may have really weird colored saliva when they are working over your blood samples. But that's only because we care so much about you and your safety. St. Shelley's Memorial Hospital. Nothing is too strange for us.
Monster Hospital is crowdfunding now. We are halfway through the campaign. We still have cameo slots left.
Go back our comic.
Yay!
You know if that's not too much to ask for, at least. Have to be at least a little bit humble. Yes, it is on our Indiegogo, and we also have a Redbubble store with wonderful merchandising for it: T-shirts, mouse pads, phone cases, maybe coasters. You invest a little bit in it, you'll see wonderful profits, I assure you.
So, are we recording?
Oh yeah, we're streaming.
I
At
do
least we
notice that a lot of the Lily Orchard rules end with "you're a huge
Well,
turd."
Okay,
Oh,
because it's
oh
another thing you have
no.
to remember,
And
she's
I don't know
really
if that
fucking
offends me or not.
petty.
I don't know if that offends me or not.
Again, you have to remember, like, Orchard is a very, very, very shallow, very petty person, all things considered.
But I don't know. What if a turd is my pronouns?
Turd self.
Yeah, I might be offended about that. Him, turd.
we will have to wait a moment because something apparently happened with the stream, and then we'll just have to wait and see if till it kicks back up again.
Yeah, something really weird is going on tonight.
Screw the internet.
Halloween's over. How could it be spooky?
Run, hide, your Wi-Fi is haunted. You know, like it usually is.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're finally live.
Are you
Hello.
sure?
Look, I'm doing a local recording, so I'll just upload that instead of like the live chat.
Any recording is good so long as we can get it out here and finally get our thoughts out of the way.
Oh, yeah.
So, Lily Orchard. You guys remember her? She was a thing. I don't know. I think she got really famous off yelling about alien space rocks for
lesbian space
rocks. And something may or may not have said Rebecca Sugar was a Nazi sympathizer or some shit.
What?
Oh, did you not see? Did you not see the entirety to the end of the video for that, where she was talking about how like
No,
she?
Yeah, but
I don't follow that. I don't really follow drama that much, so some of this shit is new to me.
No, it's weird because like that's something she points out in like her video for Steven Universe's Garbage and Here's Why. Like that's like a big thing she points out like at the end because like she makes this huge big thing about like why do we give redemption arcs to people that are like terrible people while waxing on about how Forgive and Forget is only for like minor stuff and not for like huge shit, and then like goes off to say like why give the diamonds a redemption arc, and essentially just sort of basically called Lauren sorry, I'm getting directors confused because I'm remembering that Orchard used to be
Yeah.
part of the My Little Pony community.
Shadow had an entire bit promoting Monster Hospital at the beginning, which didn't get streamed. We have it on recording though, so that'll be it. So that'll be in like the
thing is, at this point, if you have a modest disagreement with somebody, they're a Nazi sympathizer. So
everyone I don't like is Hitler. A child's guide to political discourse.
So, I mean,
absolutely.
The epithet doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah, so there's that. There was like one video where she was talking about Korra or something, and then she also apparently doesn't like She-Ra, which is something you will very easily notice when we actually are starting to read through these.
Who did like She-Ra?
I honestly don't know because I never actually watched it.
From what I
could, in the original, she had a shapely body.
From what I could tell, from what I could tell, like Noelle Stevenson wanted to do something original, but she got hit at She-Ra instead, so she basically turned She-Ra into what that original project would have been.
Huh. Oh. That actually makes a lot
well,
of sense.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Because She-Ra is like, it has, I mean, I wouldn't say it has like a huge following, but it has a lot of lore. Because it, you know, like He-Man wrote a lot of that lore. And She-Ra just kind of seemed like it threw everything out of the window. And honestly, like, oh, She-Ra's gonna be.
I'm not gonna say anything about She-Ra because I haven't seen it, and I prefer not to have opinions on things I haven't seen.
Well, I mean, like it would make sense. I only bring it up because, like, when we actually get into like the bigger or farther points in her little thread, you'll notice that a lot of them don't really become. They're like a lot of stuff she points out really doesn't become writing advice, and essentially is just her bitching about how much she doesn't like how characters in She-Ra were.
Why aren't cartoons like my fanfics?
Why aren't cartoons like my coffee shop AUs?
A lot of, like, I've just skimmed through it like quickly, and like a fair number of the rules. It seems like she wants to be creating like her own little Bechdel test, and like she wants something named after her. Oh, this is mine. This is my rule. I'm gonna give a list of 100 rules, and one of these rules have to be named after me. One of these rules has to be named after me.
Yes, the ball spawn rule.
I saw a video, like from.
Anyone who's seen any of Josh Scorcher's older MLP reviews will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, so this is 1% related, but there's this guy I'm subscribed to. He's like Gianni Matro, only he can only do British voices, and
is he British or is he faking it?
No, he's definitely British because he has like one voice.
Okay.
But he was reading off like a Twitter post that said, your password must contain 1 capital letter, 2 female characters, and they have to have a conversation. They both have to have names. and they both have to have a conversation that has nothing to do with a man.
I'm not even gonna lie.
The
Sounds
Bechdel
right.
password.
Yeah, we could have a whole Yeah, there's a whole conversation on why the Bechdel test is actually a poor representation of what quote-unquote feminist media should be, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Lily Orchard's really bad writing tips.
Actually, a really quick thing before we actually start is really weird thing is, like, I think I remember, if I'm remembering correctly, she had these posted on Twitter and then had them removed from Twitter for some reason.
Gee, I wonder why.
So we have to actually thank the lucky star who was able to, like, cap all of them for our reading. And
this isn't a short thread either. Them. Like, she has, like, you said there were like 100. There's 101 actually.
Yeah, but no one really counts 101 because that's just a jab at herself, and we'll get to that at some point.
Okay, so in the recording, you've got to have like a little clip right here where there's like some background music, and thank you for whoever screen capped all these things. And then we get to it.
Mysterious screen cap.
If I thought I could get away with it, I would do that on stream.
Mysterious screen capper, whoever you are, we salute you. All right. So, anyways.
So yeah, but one more time, Monster Hospital. Link is actually on screen. I'm gonna give you guys like 30 seconds to grab it before I actually put up the tips.
Yes, support it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll even put a link in the live chat so that you don't miss it.
Yes. Yeah, we got the things. You know what? You're right, Tiger. Writing is hard sometimes.
Literally, I want to say that most of writing is planning.
Just a lot of plotting, which makes one of the points that Orchard brings up later really grind my gears.
Yeah, I want to say this is less writing tips and more fanfic tips.
This is just like her random train of thoughts she decided to throw onto Twitter and then preach as gospel.
We should just name this Problems Lily Orchard has with Steven Universe and She-Ra.
And Korra. And World of Warcraft, among other things. But that's besides the point.
That's a lot of series.
Do you think she would survive a JRPG?
Honestly, if I had to guess, probably 50-50, 45 at like 50-50, maybe 35-50 at best.
So you're giving her like a 40% chance.
Roughly speaking. If she is like a player character, if she's a party member and not just some random NPC they run into.
You know, I actually had Xenoblade in mind when I said that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay, never mind. In that case, 25 out of 50.
Oh, man. Like, I think even 10% is pretty generous, wouldn't you say?
Roughly speaking, maybe. Chances are slim.
All right. I'm putting the tips on screen for context. Here we go.
Just so you can follow us along.
Simple writing tips! A thread!
And so we begin.
I love it how it's right away she's ratioed. They're like 1,400 quote tweets and 331 likes.
See, that's how you know they're full of shit, when literally everyone is calling them out.
Well, of course. How else is she supposed to take criticism if people don't say anything? She points out that people talking to you is good writing criticism, so you're supposed to take it.
Hey, this is what I like in my fanfics. You should put this in your story. That's literally all this is. Number 1, don't worry about spoilers. If your story is good, spoilers aren't going to make it any less enjoyable. Bull fucking shit.
If spoilers make a story less enjoyable, then that just means you were relying on cheap shock value as a shortcut.
Wow.
Okay.
Hey, Lily, Lily, come here. No!
Oh god, you got so angry you ate your mic for a minute.
The reason people hate spoilers is because it defeats the purpose of them watching it to begin with. The reason why people hate spoilers is because the journey is why you're there. If you spoil it for them, then the journey is pointless.
Here's the thing when I look at this first point. Like, the big thing that I think is the reason people go looking for spoilers is one. Okay, well, the big reason why they go looking for spoilers
looks
is
for spoilers. If
who,
they're
who does that? Actually, no. Back up. Who is looking for spoilers?
People who aren't invested in the story. The only people.
There you go. People who aren't invested in the story. That's exactly who your audience is not.
Yeah, because if the story's good, then that means that your audience is very obviously invested in your story, so they would have no reason to go looking for spoilers.
I would argue that if your story is good, spoilers make it worse because people are looking forward to it.
Oh,
yeah, you can't make that argument where it's like, oh, don't worry about spoilers, because the thing is, if I'm interested in a series, I like to look up what's happening about the series. It's like, and the thing is, if it's not like a Netflix thing where it's getting dumped all in one season on the internet. If it's like a thing that's coming out like every week, maybe I want to look up what's going on with the series, and if there's like some kind of leak, it's like, oh, this happens in the next episode that happens, a week from now, where everybody's going to be watching it a week from now, but this is what happens. I'm going to feel like it ruined it for me.
Okay, another big thing you need to keep in mind is for a lot of these points she brings up, because of the content she reviews and critiques. A lot of these seem like they're sort of aimed for sort of serialized, sort of episodic, multi-seasonal shows. So these are the big reasons for why a lot of these are super lax about stuff with story and spoilers and shit. So that's
okay.
That's
I want to give the one example of one time spoilers were actually a good thing, and that's Last of Us Part 2.
Because then they found out, and then no one ever played it.
No, people said nah. Well, the people who didn't see the spoilers, they were like, nah, that's too dumb. They wouldn't do that. And then they found out that not only was it true, it was even worse than people thought it was.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way: that leaker really scored a Joel in one.
Okay, so what I take issue with is that anything that a spoiler kind of ruins in Lily Orchard's universe is reduced to cheap shock value, when that's not the case. It's not cheap shock value. It's actually, something that is important that you don't want to reveal until you want to reveal it as a writer.
Once again,
you know what I mean?
Once again, right back to my Last of Us Part 2 thing. I'm going to say that if you were relying on cheap shock value as a shortcut, then spoilers are actually going to... It's actually going to make people realize, I am so glad I did not spend my money on that.
Yeah, essentially speaking, because if the story's bad, then the spoilers really aren't going to make it better. So, onward. Next point.
By the way, Tiger, Deathhead, Ethan, welcome to the chat. Yeah, that was all the first one, by the way.
Hello,
we could have spent a lot more time on that one.
Yeah, but we got 100 of these to go through.
All right, so we're gonna be here until at least 4 o'clock tomorrow morning.
No, we'll probably do like a part 2 or something.
We'll make it like a 2-parter. Make it halfway through and then like finish the other half some other time. So, anyways, number T.
The middle point of a story is the best time to get a main couple together because that's all that fucking matters. Are you working on a 5-season show? Put your main couple together halfway through season 3. That way, there's absolutely nowhere to go for the rest of the 2 seasons. The finale is the worst time because we don't get any time to enjoy the payoff.
Okay, so like sitting back and I'm like looking at and I'm like reading this back again in my head, this definitely seems like this is sort of like a general grievance with like pacing stuff, because like I can definitely see like this sort of point being valid if there was like no development for the characters before they decided to get together. But like the big thing is like if the writer is capable of knowing what they're doing and then like builds up the interactions and characterization of the 2 characters and then gets them together at the end, then the payoff will have been worth it because they had seen the characterization throughout the story, and then at the payoff at the end being like, oh, they finally got together. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on it.
So to
this
me,
just seems like
now
general
what happens when your show
rom-coms.
starts at a wedding? I don't know. It seems like Black Widow and Kylo Ren are gonna get a divorce.
Yeah. So it seems to me that this rule is
nobody got that joke.
It's not a rule. It's what it is. It's somebody who prefers a certain genre of writing and to other genres. So, for instance, this is a person who prefers romance novels to other genres of writing.
Okay,
they want to see what happens after the romance. But the thing is,
that the romance is the story. If you resolve
people
it
getting
halfway
together,
through,
people getting together and then living together afterwards is not, is not the ending point of a lot of kind of literature. It's in some literature, it's people never get together. In some literature, they get together right at the end. In some literature, they get together right at the beginning of the novel, and then they fall apart in the middle. It's where the getting together part happens is part of the literature. It's depends on what genre you like. It depends on what.
It also kind of depends on like what kind of characters you're trying to get together. Is the thing, because like I mean, I know this might just be me saying this, but like writing characters, like they sometimes take a wildly different direction than when you had originally planned them. So like they go in a wildly different direction than you had anticipated, then it somehow like makes like a turn in the road that changes the dynamic and everything. So it kind of makes it a little more interesting when you actually get around to finally getting them as a couple.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's like it could happen at any time. There's like that meme where it's like European literature is like something like the 2 lovers, they love each other from the very beginning, but they're prevented from getting together. But in American literature, they don't love each other at first, but then they love each other at the end. And then in Russian literature, they hate each other at the start, and then they eventually at the end they decide that they're I guess we can live with each other. And it's just what kind of literature you're interested in, and it's like nothing has to happen at a set time. It's just the kind of story that you want to write. That's all.
Yeah, basically. How we doing, Slacker, my boy?
2 rules.
2
So we've
down.
got 97 to go.
During that entire explanation, OBS decided to have a stroke.
Do you think it would be easier if we just kind of recorded it, not as a live stream?
Well, we're already streaming. We might as well continue.
You make a fair point.
All right.
Friends to lovers is better than enemies to lovers every time.
Okay, so this is exactly what I was talking about before. The friends to lovers is American literature, and enemies to lovers is Russian literature.
I was just gonna quickly say it just depends on the characters you're writing and depends on the sort of dynamic you're gonna go for, and then move on.
Yeah, I mean, it really, either of them could be turned into great literature in any case. So
it all depends on the writing.
Sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. The recorded version is going to have all our thoughts, so just stick with us until then. I'm sorry.
Don't be worried. You guys are going to be hearing our thoughts one way or another.
But yeah, my thoughts on the whole... I think out of the two, enemies to lovers is the most interesting because it actually has the most character growth.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super interesting dynamic. It ultimately depends on what sort of dynamic you're trying to go for and what type of characters you're writing.
I also think, too, that the friends to lovers kind of thing is 90% the literature would be like a serious literature, where enemies to lovers, it's more of a kind of, I mean, there are serious stories with that in it, but it's a lot, enemies to lovers is kind of more of like a comedy genre, I would say.
Or like something like supposed to be lighter for kids.
Yeah.
Because you also have to remember the big thing that Lily Orchard critiques.
Like, I hate you, but then we're gonna fall in love. So it seems more like kind of like a comedy kind of thing to me, which is great. That could be a great story. So
thoughts done? On to the next point.
All right, here's where we get to the spicy bits.
Numero cuatro.
Honestly, I wish OBS started skipping on this one and not number 2.
I actually kind of agree with this one. It doesn't seem like a very happy redemption arc.
Well, to be fair, by the way, if in case no one is able to see this, number 4 is victims of abuse moving away from the negative impacts of their abuse, i.e. Zuko, and becoming healthier are not redemption arcs.
It isn't a redemption arc, but it's a...
I would argue it's a
healing arc. It's a healing arc. I was
gonna say a recovery arc.
Yeah.
Actually, so because for the most part, like when you think of a redemption arc, like you think of someone who like was a villain, a villain, and then effectively makes like a massive sacrifice or effort on their part to like
a mental change, change that they change the way their outlook was before.
Yeah, it's like that, and then like it's the progression from like straight villain to, I guess, anti-hero.
But realizing that, like what your former life was, and you don't have to live that way before again, is not really. I wouldn't call it a redemption arc. It would be like you said, or like a recovery arc, and that's good too.
I mean, yeah. There's place in stories for both, but there's really no reason to like somehow confuse the two and say like, this person who had like this harsh life and is like slowly getting better. Oh, they're having a redemption arc. Like, no, they're not. They're just recovering. They're just getting better. So
yeah,
that doesn't really count.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with that.
Any thoughts, sir? Monsieur Slacker?
Not really. I've actually never seen Avatar. I know that's a sin.
Whoa.
Oh
Okay.
no!
Well.
I've seen
Well,
I've seen bits and pieces, but I don't know. Like I watched different shows growing up.
So then,
well, we're gonna have to give you that series.
Yeah,
going.
it's not that I don't want to watch it. It's just that I've never had a chance to.
Okay, okay.
Oh well,
Yes,
yeah, I could say that for a lot of things that are like necessary to watch.
All right, moving on. Number 5. Heroes refusing to kill villains who have been shown to actively trying to murder people isn't noble. It's enabling.
I was gonna say it's not enabling. I was gonna say it's stupid.
It's
But there may also be
stupid.
the fact. But then there's also the fact that like you, if the person has like a really good moral compass and they don't kill people because that would be betraying their morals, then like that's just them in character. So
It's even
Yes,
it's
yeah,
even
not
dumber
really
in video
enabling.
games where you have to kill like dozens of people to get to that point.
yeah,
It's like, no, I'm not gonna kill you. That's against my morals, even though I killed like hundreds of guys on the way here.
yeah.
Yeah, Undertale was the only
But
one that ever
and
made a
this at this
pacifist
point, I
run
don't
stuff
think we're
make
talking
sense.
about video games. I think we're talking about
Just anything in general. She never specified what you were writing, what you were supposed to be writing for. She mentioned like season shows
But this is
as
not
an
what that
example, but
that
then like
rule is
it was like
referring to. It's like if your hero killed 100 people to get to the main villain, then the hero shouldn't have any qualms about killing the main villain. Then that's not what we're talking about. So it's consider that the hero got to the main villain without killing anybody, but the villain is actively trying to murder people. And I think, that's kind of like it's a situational thing. I think that if the hero meets the villain and the villain is actively trying to kill the hero, then yes. But I mean, if the villain has killed people before, I still believe the hero's obligation is to, bring the person to justice. It shouldn't be to murder the person, murder the villain. There has to be that kind of uh, you know, ethos going on. That the hero's obligation is to bring the villain to justice. The hero shouldn't be going in to murder the villain. And if the that's why there's always, the in the westerns, where it's like the the villain gives up and it's like, oh yeah, and then he has a gun in his boot and he goes to kill the hero, and the hero, that's when the hero kills him. It's because that kind of ethos, where the hero wants to bring the villain to justice, and he only kills the villain when the villain tries to kill the hero. And that's kind of a weird ethos that goes on, and like why is that? That's kind of seems like a human ethos that it seems to be in a lot of stories.
yeah, I believe it's supposed to be on a moral side, but I wouldn't go so far as to argue it as being enabling. I would argue it's just characters who have like really strict morals just being within character and just maintaining it, and I would argue it's not really enabling, it's more just kind of foolish at best.
I don't know. I think it really depends on. It's a really another situational one where it's like heroes refusing to kill villains. I mean, heroes refusing to kill villains. So it's like, what kind of situation is the hero in, where they have an opportunity to kill the villain? So it's like they got like a gun like up against the villain's chin. You know, it's like what are they gonna do? It's like refusing to kill a villain who is shown actively trying to murder other people. You know, and the hero has a gun underneath the villain's chin. You know, is that if the hero refuses to do that, is that enabling, or I don't know. It seems kind of weird.
Any more thoughts to add to that, Slacker?
Well, not related to this, but since we're technically no longer streaming on YouTube, do you guys, wow, frog in my throat. Do you guys want to keep going on recording, or do you want to just end it for now?
I don't know, if you're still recording, you can play it later. We can record a few more.
Is true.
All right.
You don't have to go forever. It's just.
Then let me. All right, then let's grab the next thing.
Point the sixth.
Fifth. Oh yeah, the sixth one.
Let me get it on screen though.
This one I don't get. This one seems very, very.
This is
very,
literally
very...
just She-Ra.
You'll notice specific. A lot of these start to like get very, very specific about something, and she's just using it as an excuse to like bitch about some show that she didn't like. Like for example, is it on the screen?
Yeah.
Point number 6. 2 women kissing in the last episode of a show after 4 or 5 seasons of trying to murder each other isn't revolutionary. It's fetishized abuse and violence. Yes, this is like something that is really like super specific. Like it's one of the many examples in this that doesn't count as writing advice or a writing tip at all. So this is like super...
I mean, when you think about it, it's like, how many shows have there ever been? I saw the end of this. How many shows have there ever been 2 women kissing in the last episode of the show? Like maybe there's been, 2,000 shows, more than 2,000 shows ever made. 2 women kissing, maybe twice it's happened in the last show. And one of them was She-Ra, I guess. I don't know. I never watched the last episode of that. But it's like, it sounds like she's mad at one specific series for this one.
I want to say in this one she's very specifically mad at She-Ra because she brings it up. She brings up like more hatred to She-Ra later on. But at the same time, this is not. Do we want to talk about
the irony? Do we want to talk about the hypocrisy that she shows later?
That would depend when we get.
We're gonna. If we get there.
All right. Number 7. Twitter is not an appropriate place to reveal story details. The appropriate place is in the work itself. Fully agree.
You just said spoilers are okay, like in rule number 1. So
but this is.
What does it matter?
Okay, this is something I absolutely agree with because if like there's details you
J.K. Rowling
in the story.
J.K. Rowling.
Oh hey, hi, Ms. Rowling. It's like I knew immediately that this was against that explicitly because like fairly certain Rowling was the one that had actually dropped bombshells on Twitter, and everyone was like, "Wait, what? That wasn't in the fucking story. Hold on." So, anyways, do we move on?
Everyone talks about the whole Dumbledore is gay and Hermione used to be black. My personal favorite is the one where she says before toilets were invented, wizards just shat on the floor.
Yeah, no, they didn't shit on the floor. They shit, and then before it hit the floor, they magicked it away. So they just shit wherever they were. It didn't hit the floor. They magicked it away. It just disappeared.
Okay, my question is, if you have an ability... Okay, so my question is, if you have that ability, then why build toilets at all?
For the Muggles.
So Muggles are visiting Hogwarts?
No, it's for
the
the
continuity.
students who don't know how to do that yet.
Oh
I
no,
would imagine that wouldn't be too complicated of a spell.
How do you know? Do you know magic?
No, but I could probably come up with a rhyme right now. Watch. Shitus Begonis.
Shitus
Oh god.
Shitus Leviosa.
What is it? Acchiophyses or something?
Watch it not even be a spell. It's just like you dab before it hits the floor.
Oh god. So point the eighth.
Point the eighth.
The Muggles stole our spell. When a character's body count is over 10,000 innocent lives, then that character is no longer redeemable.
It's just a number. But then it's also innocent lives. Okay, I don't know if this is actually another jab at something else.
Do we need a number? That's the question, because I have a lot more, because I think a lot more people are angry at Sephiroth, who killed one character, and then you have Darth Vader, who blew up an entire planet.
So, like, I would argue at this point, like, for this one specifically, like, the character's intent when they were taking an innocent life would be the bigger kicker of whether or not they were redeemable or not. Like, characters like Sephiroth and Darth Vader, totally redeemable. Killed a bunch of innocent lives on a planet, killed one person. So, like, it goes to show how incredibly cruel they are for doing that. So, like, the number is, like, sort of subjective, really.
I think
this is sort of, again, I don't know if this is, like, meant to be, like, one of her jabs at Steven Universe, like her just being mad at the diamonds or something, but that's just me.
I think that if you have, like, kind of like the default story with, like the Star Wars story with the hero's arc or whatever, where they're battling somebody who has killed, 10,000 people, maybe that's true, but I could certainly see a story specifically crafted where somebody has, killed 10,000 people, and the story is specifically crafted to, make that person see the error of their ways, like in their later life, and be paralyzed by what they did, and why is 10,000 the number that makes you irredeemable. Why is it 10,000? Why isn't it 100,000? Why isn't it 1,000,000? It's like anybody is redeemable if they're maybe not according to the law. Maybe you always go to jail, but I mean, emotionally, I think everybody is redeemable. Anybody could change their ways.
Okay, I can actually back up your point with an example from a video game. If anyone who is watching this has ever heard of a game called Tales of the Abyss, there is the main character who is Luke, and one of his big turning points was that he was kind of pushed by someone that he thought was like his sort of father, sort of his mentor figure, into being an accessory to an entire city of people being destroyed, and he suffers for that shit immediately. Like, his friends just abandon him and leave with this person who was like his original version, because it turns out that he's actually a clone. But like, it's this moment that sort of like pushes him towards this large redemption arc for himself, to like make up for the lives that he was unknowingly responsible for killing. So that's like this is like one of those weird things, because it's like that example that like makes this sort of a gray area sort of situation.
Okay,
I,
tip
I,
9, because tip 9 is supposed to be an exception, but it's not really an
I,
exception.
I say this when I immediately look at at point the ninth. Oh god, yeah, I forgot.
Who's Sylvania's
Rerailment.
Windrunner?
What does that even mean? Character rerailment.
Sylvanas Windrunner is a character from the Warcraft series. Like, one big thing you'll learn is that Lily Orchard is a big fan of World of Warcraft, and specifically Sylvanas Windrunner. So there's sort of this reason. She is this cold, callous character who was an elf, but then was killed and brought back to life as an undead. So that's her big thing. Point the ninth says,
why am I not surprised that a toxic person is a fan of a Blizzard game?
True. Tip the ninth. Tip 8 does not apply to characters from whom making them the villain was a stupid, idiotic idea, i.e. Sylvanas Windrunner. At that point, it's just character derailment.
So basically it's saying, for people who I don't believe are villains, tip 8 doesn't apply. I didn't think they were villains from the beginning, so it doesn't apply.
Actually, it's funny because, like,
I like that character.
It's actually really funny because tip 8, if the person's body count is at least 9,999, yeah, there's still hope for you yet.
Yeah,
buddy.
okay.
I can imagine somebody like Sauron from like Lord of the Rings going, look, we need to defeat that army, but once you hit 9,999, we need to stop, because that will make us redeemable in the eyes of Lily Orchard.
Oh.
And then whoever the fuck is like his general is like, what the fuck?
Wait, what?
That's everything.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really weird because, like, there's like that one caveat. Okay, if it's not over,
I haven't seen Lord of the Rings either.
So, anyways, if there's no more thoughts. Point the 10th.
10.
Everything in a story is there because the creator wished it to be there. Trying to explain away bigoted story decisions using world building is a fallacy because you put it there to begin with.
Okay, this I can kind of agree with. World building itself cannot be a sole excuse for why something is there. Like, at best, I can probably argue, like, if the story decision there is bigoted, but then you also, like, sort of acknowledge that it's bigoted and address it, and then sort of make at least a little bit of an effort to work to somehow what the fuck is the word I'm thinking of? To at least confront the idea, then it would sort of make sense for why it was there anyway. Because because if there was a bigoted story decision there, then and you're not a total terrible writer, then the reason you put it there is so you can actually confront and address the issue that's you're trying to discuss.
All right. Counter argument, and I don't think anybody thought of this. What if it's a nonfiction story?
Oh.
What if it's a World War II story? Do we just suddenly not have Nazis?
Well, okay, here's the thing. I don't think she's talking about nonfiction, but in regards to, like, nonfiction and fiction in general, like, I still stand by, like, my thought that, like, if a bigoted story decision is there, you're not a terrible writer,
dealing with, like,
then the reason is why...
If you're a nonfiction writer writing about the Second World War, I mean, there's bigoted stuff there because the Nazis were like master race and all that shit. So I mean, if you write stuff like that, of course, as the creator, you wish it to be there because it was there. If you're writing a nonfiction story. So I kind of agree with that. I mean, if there are a lot of like old stories where nowadays they have like, oh, we don't agree with this, like for instance like the Tezuka, some of the Osamu Tezuka manga stories. It's like, oh yeah, the Tezuka was like the least bigoted person we know, but because of the era that he lived in, some of the representations of minorities, might seem bigoted today.
From what I've
And
heard, it wasn't even because it was bigoted. He legit thought that was how you were supposed to portray black people.
yeah, exactly. And it's not. It's
That doesn't make it right, but
it
it
doesn't
doesn't
make it
mean that.
right. And the thing is that he wished it to be there. But the thing is, like, her second sentence, trying to explain away bigoted story decisions. I think that part of this rule is wrong, because bigoted story decisions, is something that the reader is interpreting, not the writer.
Okay,
You
well,
know,
yeah,
the
okay, so
writer is writing something, but if the reader reads it a certain way, the reader is going to say, "Oh, this was a bigoted story decision." When it might not have been, when it maybe it never was.
Yeah, for the most part, if you're not running on the rule of the author is dead, and like story decisions are like up to interpretation from the audience, then like there is like at least a little bit of a leeway for in regards to the second part of the point.
Yeah, everything in a story is there because the creator wished it to be there, and it's by that sentence, judging from the second sentence, it's like everything in a story is there because the creator wished it to be there. And a writer wrote a story at a certain point in time. And she is making the point that the writer is claiming the reasoning for writing that story at every year in the future that anybody is reading this story. It's like, if somebody 50 years in the future reads this story and comes away with a specific interpretation of it, that means the writer is responsible for what that person, interpreted it to be. And I don't agree with that. Because when a writer writes something, I mean, I've heard of plenty of stories where a writer writes something, and I've gone in some creative writing classes in like university, and and you could be like, okay, and let's everybody read this story and interpret, what you think about this story, right? And you'd interpret the story, and it's like, oh, the author was obviously going for this symbolism and that symbolism. And I've heard tons of examples where a writer was like, I had no idea I'd write in this kind of symbolism. I was just writing a freaking story, right? And it's the readers who put in all this symbolism, and
Yeah,
and,
because
and plenty of situations a writer does put in a lot of symbolism, but in plenty of cases a writer is just writing a story,
my
right? And there's
favorite
no overt symbolism, and they don't care about the symbolism, and they're not trying to write anything with symbolism, but readers interpret that, oh, there's this symbolism here, and it's bigoted, and therefore the author was bigoted, and the creator wished it to be there, so therefore this author is like a bigoted author. And the writer is like, I don't know what these people are seeing in what I wrote. I just trying to write a great story. I don't know.
my favorite example of the overanalyzation of literature is William Shakespeare.
Yes.
No. Do you want to think the funny?
Do you want to know why?
Why?
Because everyone goes on about like, oh, this scene in Macbeth is clearly like Lady Macbeth's guilt about killing people, when in reality Shakespeare's plays would have been, in his time, would have been so cheap that even like local local elementary school theaters had higher production standards.
It was all based on the acting. I was gonna say the funny example was everyone overanalyzing the
literally
fake
the
suicide letter
closest. If you want the most accurate interpretation of like Shakespeare's plays as he intended it, go watch Shakespeare in the Park.
Yeah, basically speaking. I was gonna say a really funny example of people overanalyzing stuff would be a scene in Heathers where it was during one of the Heather in Red had died, so Veronica and her boyfriend write a fake suicide letter for her, and then there's a bunch of people overanalyzing it, and there's like people who are like saying like there's this one word because it's really fancy, and they think it has so much meaning, but it really doesn't because it's just bullshit that the fucking boyfriend wrote. Anyway, point the 11th.
Yay.
Here we go. Point.
Sorry about that. I went to get another drink. I want to have like one more thought for number 10.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever seen. This is like season 14, so it's like later South Park, but there's an episode of South Park where they read Catcher in the Rye. And
great novel, by the way.
Okay.
The irony is, when that episode came out, I was actually... My literature class in high school was actually reading Catcher in the Rye.
Huh, weird how that happened.
Yeah. But the point is, the whole episode is all about, like... So, the kids read it, and they're like, dude, why is this book banned? It's not even that bad. So they end up writing a book that intentionally will get banned with how much is in it, called The Tale of Scrody McBoogerballs. And everyone considers it to be a masterpiece, but it's so vulgar that you can't get through it without throwing up.
Them South Park boys.
And yet everyone analyzes it to be like this miraculous miracle of literature. And eventually, when they get taken into court, they're like, no, we didn't intend any of this. We just wanted to shock people.
You know, it happens.
Anyway, number 11. Oh, boy!
Here's the fun one. Along with point 12.
Shadow, would you like to be the one to point out the hypocrisy in this?
Okay, I'll read it. I'll read it. I'll mention like one little caveat because of the way it's worded is really weird, and then I will point out the hypocrisy because it kind of also relates to shit in point 12.
All right.
Point 11. Don't pair adults with minors. That's pedophilia. Okay, the weird thing is like, okay, one, this goes without saying. Two, this is written in such a way that because of how like super blunt it is, it doesn't say don't romantically pair adults with minors, which would make more sense. Because like if your story is about like family and like his mother or a father, like having
literally the hero's journey is like one of the first steps is that the young hero gets advice from like an aged adult, and that's like what starts the whole journey.
I was gonna say yeah, because like this point, because of how like starkly it's worded, completely cuts out like platonic and anything familial or platonic that an adult and a minor would have. Like if an adult's like supposed to be like a father, a mother, or a mentor figure.
Yep.
Okay. Now for the controversy.
All right. I pulled up the next couple because 11 is on here. Is on like the next list.
Yes, it is. Fun. Point 12. Okay, so point 11. Don't pair adults with minors. That's pedophilia. Point 12. Don't sexualize teenage characters. Okay, this is, again, goes without saying. and is also very rich, coming from someone who also co-wrote a very, very super smutty My Little Pony fanfic series that I remember having to read about somewhere just because of genuine curiosity. And yeah, it's smutty. For example, like one of the main leads is literally a pedophile. So yeah, oops.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of agree with that. But
yeah, 11 and 12.
I know that
go without saying. I mean,
it goes without saying, because I mean, if you're gonna have a teenage character, if you're gonna have a character, either make them not teenage, or don't sexualize them.
I mean, yeah, that's basically it. It's just basic decency. I mean, both points go without saying. 11 could use a little rewording so to specify not romantically pairing them, but
okay, I'm pulling up number 13, and I actually have a clip I want to play for this.
Because the other funny thing we need to point out is, like, for 11, like, she was probably thinking of maybe Lolita, which was a book and a movie. But the point of that was like, oh god, how fucked up is this guy that he can do this to a little girl?
I feel like she was using the word pair, in a way that most people don't consider it.
I'm just seeing the thumbnail of this video.
Yeah.
That's a child.
All right.
Technically,
Point, unless Lecker has like additional thoughts before we move on to point the 13th.
No, I think 12 is pretty cut and clear.
Yes.
Yeah. Both points are cut and clear in my opinion. No real.
Number 13. Before I actually don't make up weird anime excuses for sexualizing teenage characters. Actually, 1,000 years old, fusion, age of consent, blah blah blah, etc. Okay, here's the clip.
That's a child! Technically, he's 475 years old. Then why did you draw him like this?
Where's the clip? Are you playing it somewhere?
Well, I played it on I just played it on my end.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's so funny.
You know, it's even funnier. Like, the context is, he's acting as, like, the CEO of Jewel, and they're trying to convince people that they're not marketing towards children. So it's not exactly that creepy, but it's still what the fuck.
Then why did you draw him like this?
The explosion is what gets me every time. Because it's what everyone's thinking.
Yeah. So this one, I feel like it's funny.
You ever notice how whenever they do that excuse, it's always like someone who looks that like 8 years old. It's never somebody who's like, oh, it's like, hey, they're like 2,000 years old, but they look like 22 or something. No.
Yep. Yeah, I understand. That's why I kind of find it a little funny, because it's always like that for some reason. And don't get me wrong, it's kind of weird, and I know it is wrong for that reason, but it's funny for the memeage of that.
Yeah. Japan's consent laws are also a mess, but we're not going to get into that.
Point 13 is basically, hey, Japan, knock it off. It's funny she brings up fusion, because the reason she brings that up is because when, if I'm recalling correctly, Steven and Connie fuse together, they become this half gem, half human fusion called Stevani. And it's mentioned that their age is 26 because it's literally just Steven and Connie's age added together. So that's super creepy.
I remember when...
They're just the workaround.
I remember when the Dragon Maid anime came out. There was a meme going around saying, ravioli, ravioli, don't lewd the dragon loli.
Oh yeah, of course, that goes without saying. So, point the 14th?
Making a metaphor for a gay trans ace rep character is inherently inferior to just making that type of character. Yes, actually.
Yeah, I believe this. I mean, if you're
What's a metaphor though? What's a metaphor for gay trans ace?
This would be like the equivalent of like the crystal gems from Steven Universe, or
I never watched Steven Universe,
or the
I think it's
or
dumb.
like the blue. I'm trying to remember the name of the blue alien race
Lapis?
from Mass Effect. Huh?
Oh no, you were talking about Mass Effect.
Yeah, the blue alien.
You know what?
Race,
I've never
who I believe
actually
is asexual.
I played
Yeah,
played like 20 minutes of Mass Effect. I think I might play that for like the podcast.
Okay, but
Interesting.
what's a metaphor for gay trans ace rep?
It would be like the equivalent of like having something like be an alien or like a fantasy race or something. And then like we're just sitting here and like, okay, if you're going to have a character that's gay, transgender, or asexual, why don't you just have them be that? And just
Okay,
not
that
have them
doesn't
be an
seem like a
excuse for-
metaphor for me. That just seems like making an. It just seems like Rule 15. That doesn't seem like a metaphor to me. That's more like Rule 15. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
I don't understand what being a metaphor for gay trans. What's a metaphor for it? I mean, you're either gay, trans,
does she mean
ace, or
allegory?
you're not. I have no idea
think,
what a metaphor for it means.
I think she might have meant to say allegory because metaphor is really weird. Is a weird word to use in this case. But aside from that, like this point makes sense.
Yeah, metaphor.
I don't understand.
Metaphor is more comparison. Is more of a comparison. While allegory is literally just this is what this means.
Right. It's a comparison. So it's like, what is? It's like you're showing two flowers that lean into each other, and that's like the gay part of what you're showing in the cartoon. What's a metaphor for it? I mean,
and number 50. Oh, so this is where Lily's catchphrase comes in.
So now here's the huge turd stuff starts.
If there are humans in your story, restricting gay, trans, ace rep characters to the non-human characters
now,
makes you a huge turd.
If this what she means by a metaphor for being gay,
I think this.
Then I understand,
but
just strictly saying a metaphor for it doesn't make it. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Because I mean, also, like again, like despite the fact that like, again,
Why do I feel like Lily would unironically use the term shitlord?
Would not surprise me. Okay, like take out like the you're a huge turd thing. Like if my point still stands from 14, if you're going to have a character who is, if you want characters that are gay, transgender, or asexual, just make them gay, transgender, or asexual. There's no reason to come up with this super fancy convoluted allegory. If you,
I feel like have any of you watched Dragon Prince on Netflix?
I have heard of it.
Same. I have heard of it. I have not seen it.
In that one, the elf character is a lesbian. So I feel like this is kind of like, because all the human characters are like there's some diversity in the human characters, but everybody's straight. And then it's like, oh, we got to slip in a lesbian gay character, and they made the elves gay. So I feel like this might be a reference to that.
Yeah, makes sense. So, point the 16th.
If only the gay man in your work is if the only gay man in your work is a foppish diva, you're a huge turd.
Okay, yeah, this goes without saying. I think this is supposed to be something against She-Ra. I don't know if it is because it's really vague, and I would have to maybe glance through again.
You know what? While we're on the subject, do you ever notice how the only representation of gay guys in media is always it's always the twink. It's always the shy dude in the corner. Where are the bears?
Where are the bears?
Where are the big muscular gay dudes?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
so, yeah.
the type of people that gay guys are actually attracted to.
Yeah, you know,
I actually agree with that.
ironically, the closest thing we have to like an actual gay representation is JoJo, and I'm saying that unironically.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
JoJo's great.
Yeah, the reason why it's great is I've only seen like the first couple episodes, the whole thing with Oreo Speedwagon, who is the best waifu, by the way.
Oh man, you haven't watched like the Golden Wind series, Italian one?
I haven't gotten that far. I've only gotten
man.
I haven't even gotten to the point where there's stands.
Oh shoot. Man, you gotta watch that.
Look, I got a list 5 miles long of things I gotta see.
There's the next season. I mean, the next season's already out in Japanese, but the next season is coming out on Netflix, English translated.
Yeah, but why would you do that? The whole fun of JoJo is watching it in Japanese. That way,
it's female JoJo in a female prison, and it's gonna be a major turning point. I think.
Sinister Minister.
Woohoo!
So, point the 17th.
Okay, so in all seriousness, like, JoJo's English is something that needs to be protected in this world. I feel like that is a world treasure, the English in JoJo.
Of course it is.
Hey, a baby! And, oh, that's a baseball!
So, any more thoughts before we move on, I guess?
Yes. Oh, that's a baseball!
So, with that out of the way, point 17. If the only lesbian in your work is an abusive rageaholic with vague angst issues and a codependent relationship to a protagonist, you're a huge turd.
You're a huge turd!
I feel like this one is so specific that, you can just give it to her and move on.
I'm fairly certain this is a Shira thing, because this is, I believe, Katra and Adora's relationship.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what this is referring to.
See, the weird thing is that this also kind of relates to Has Been Hotel, because doesn't Charlie have a kind of broody, angsty girlfriend too?
I don't watch Adam Sandler movies.
No, Has Been Hotel. The animation.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No, I thought you were talking about Hotel Transylvania.
Oh no, I was talking about Has Been Hotel because I'm vaguely remembering.
Yeah, the one episode they have.
Isn't Charlie's girlfriend a rageaholic with vague angst issues and a codependent relationship? I don't know if she's abusive or not.
I don't know. Like, are you talking about the one with the grayish face?
Yeah, the one with the grayish face and an eye patch. Her name escapes me at the moment.
Yeah, her name escapes me too. She came across to me as like that one character whose only personality is being concerned for like the main character. They're best friends, even though they're a bit of a buzzkill. You know that character?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, that makes sense. So, point the 18th.
Yes.
If your only non-binary character is a non-human shapeshifter, you're a huge turd.
I actually think this is supposed to be another jab at Shira. So again, not really writing advice, but
yeah, because I think they made the
peculiar.
Gremlin non-binary.
I think they did. I know for a fact that there is a shapeshifter in the show, so I think that's where the jab is coming from. Oh no. 0.9.
I mean, to be fair, if you're a non-human shapeshifter, I mean, maybe you don't even have genders at all. So, I mean, why wouldn't you be non-binary? I mean, if you had to say, if you had a human on one hand and a non-human shapeshifter in the other hand, and you had to make a bet on which one was the non-binary character, which one would you go with?
Again, this is her waxing on about representation, but again, this is also just another thing. Like, I hate She-Ra.
I mean, Ursula K. Le Guin would have something to say about this with what's that novel that she wrote, where all the non-humans would shift from one sex to another. And that was the whole point of the novel. The non-human shapeshifters.
Oh, yeah. All right, then. So, point the 19th.
Point 19.
The left hand of darkness. The left hand of darkness. That's what it was. The left hand of darkness.
Point 19. If your only autistic character is an ethically challenged number fetishist, you probably wrote the new Predator movie.
Rain Man.
Oh my god. Well, yes, this goes without saying, but okay, I have to point this out. Not everyone on the spectrum is a number fetishist.
This is going to be a really weird example, but you want to know you want to know what is a decent representation of like how autistic kids actually act, like the quote unquote normal ones. Like, you know that scene in Home Alone where Kevin accidentally steals a toothbrush?
I think I remember that scene.
Yeah, that whole sequence I think is a good example of how, cause I don't know why, but everyone thinks that autistic kids are like super geniuses when in reality they're just like, they just don't get as many social cues most of the time.
They're just hardwired to see. They're just hardwired to see things differently.
Here's the thing. The thing is, if you're gonna have a character, and you want the character to, you want your audience to identify with that character is going to have agency. And you can be on the autistic spectrum, but there's a large part of the autistic spectrum where you don't really have agency. You know, you're like
it's low functioning.
Yeah, you're like a cripple to your, to your autistic diagnosis or whatever it's called. And there are some, autistic people who do have agency, and they can force themselves to have agency, and a lot of those people are those kind of autistic people who are idiot savants, or they, like the, what's his name in Beautiful Mind,
You gotta love that just a vast chunk of these,
and the thing is, this is lumping all autistic people. All autistic people, all autistic people, they I agree, they're all people, and I don't want to deny
it's
that
a spectrum.
People.
Some of them are better off than others.
But the thing is, if you're gonna make a character out of your autistic if you're gonna make an autistic character, if you want your audience to identify with them, they have to have some kind of agency. And you can't have an autistic person, like just blundering along, and because a lot of, in reality, for a lot of autistic characters, that's they need help. And even if I like the autistic character, I'm not going to be wanting to read a story where another character is helping them through. It's like, oh, I'll help you through. I'm sorry you threw up, and I'll help you through, and it's just, it gets tiring. You need your characters to have agency, complete agency.
Yeah,
and why are they always portrayed as like the smart ones?
Because those are the ones with agency.
No. Like, I'm not talking like that kind of smart. I'm talking like every time they're portrayed as like super smart, it's always like some NASA level genius. Why can't it just be like some guy who's like really interested in Star Trek or something?
It's funny you say that because
That's-
there's a movie that actually has an autistic person who was really interested in Star Trek. The basic whole point of all of this is basically
that's
don't
literally
write
like
people as
every
stereotypes.
isekai, it's like a dumb otaku who's like obsessed with nerd stuff. That's like every isekai Japanese manga story ever. It's like they're all autistic losers who be to get into some crazy, like Japanese video game world.
All right, let's move on to number 20. If your only black character is a volatile, hyper angry brute, you're a huge turd. Well, if Monster Hospital is anything to go by, we're not huge turds, but Ghostbusters 2016, yes, you.
Yes.
Why do I get the really weird distinction that she's talking about orcs in this one? Because there's this new comment thing now where everyone sort of assumes that orcs are supposed to be like representations of black people, apparently.
Well, guess what? Anybody who thinks that is unironically a racist because they're assuming that orcs equals black people.
Oh yeah, of course, totally. That goes without saying. They were just caught in their own trap and didn't even realize it. Joke's on you.
But seriously, when we wrote Monster Hospital, I wasn't even thinking avoid the stereotype. I was just thinking I want a cool character. I want a cool character like these guys that I liked in my entertainment.
I was gonna say Wolfgang's a goofball, actually.
He's
he's not really like volatile, so like he's mostly just he's kind of a sappy goofball.
Yeah, he's a charming, lovable goofball.
Point the 21st.
Well, if staying on 20, it's kind of weird because a lot of people get angry about the first Ghostbusters with Winston, and he was definitely not a volatile, hyper angry brute. He was like comic relief.
He was chill.
No, I wouldn't even go that far. Like, to me, Winston was actually like Winston was the only one out of the four of them that wasn't like a scientist or had a PhD. He was literally just like the normal everyday man off the street who was just trying to get a job.
But the thing is, so many people complain about that he's like the token black guy that they just put in there. So why aren't you a super huge turd for doing that? I mean, he's not a volatile, hyper angry brute. He's actually a normal guy.
He's actually a really cool normal guy because he's Ernie Hudson.
But people are still mad about it. Why?
Why? Direct your anger towards Ghostbusters 2016 because Leslie, whatever her name is, that's literally what the character is in Ghostbusters 2016. It's literally just loud, angry black woman.
Sassy black woman. That's what.
Speaking of black woman,
the correct terminology.
If the only black woman in your cast barely gets any screen time except to be fetishized or fits rule number 20, you're a huge turd.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying. A lot of these points are like basically if you're going to represent someone, don't fall into stereotypes.
You know, I'm gonna hot take here. I think it's better not to represent somebody than to do it badly.
Yeah, fair point.
What's an example of number 21? Because I can't really think of any off the top of my head. If it fits Rule 20,
maybe Lily's in really 20, weird
then
porn.
Ghostbusters 2019, yes. But I mean, if there's a story where the only black woman in it is just fetishized, what movie is that? Can you think of something? What was Lily thinking of when she wrote this?
Mundo films are a thing.
She had to be thinking of something when she wrote this particular rule. But I can't think of any show or movie where the only like token black woman, I'm doing air quotes right now, but the token black woman is just in there to be fetishized. What movie or show is that?
If I were to guess, I don't actually know. I can't think of an idea. I can't think of something off the
I
top
can't
of my
think of
head.
anything either.
Yeah, I think this is just another one of those things where let's just move on to things that we actually know we can talk about.
Okay.
Number 22. If the only trans woman in your cast a drag queen and all but name, you're a huge turd.
I think you're missing a word there, Lily. Also, again, this goes without saying.
Is a drag queen, but name.
There's
And
probably
this gets at the one part of like the trans community where the trans community hates the drag queens and the drag queens hate the trans people because they
Let's
both
not get
delegitimize
into
each
that.
other. So yeah, I think that's, I don't know.
Number 23. If you force a woman to kiss her abuser, you're a huge turd.
Again,
does Lily understand that fiction is not real?
Yeah, like what movie or show was she thinking about when she wrote this, do you think? Alien, maybe, where where Ripley
is this
where
Steven Universe again?
where the alien, the second alien mouth is going after Ripley. Do you think that's what it is?
Imagine it. I'm now just imagining like an alien. Like there's a scene where like the xenomorph just goes. Number 24. If you sideline every non-white character in your cast to focus on a white boy with anger issues and a tendency towards hostility getting a redemption arc, you're a huge turd. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, I just read number 24 and then it got really quiet.
Here's that image I was talking about. You force a woman to kiss her abuser. You're a huge turd if you force a woman to kiss her abuser.
Okay, on screen, I have that picture right above 23.
Anyway, yes, 24.
24. If you sideline every non-white character in your cast and focus on a white boy with anger issues and a tendency towards hostility getting a redemption arc, you're a huge turd. Alright, so white people can't have character growth. Got it.
Well, to me, I actually kind of agree with this. Like, if you create a story and you are like a diversity fetishist and you put like a lot of different diverse characters in it, like you put like, and you make that a point, but your main character is a white kid and the white kid, why don't you just make, if your fetish is diversity, why not just make one of the other characters the main character? You know what I mean?
Well then, Okay, well then we get into what's
because
called...
the thing is,
then we get into like the Galbraith fallacy.
Yes. Well, the thing is, if you sideline every that's true. But if you sideline every non-white character, that's the kind of the point I'm getting at. If you sideline every non-white character, so there's obviously other characters in your story that are non-white, and you didn't choose to make them the main character, but you chose to make the white boy with anger issues the main character. I mean, maybe
Well, we couldn't make it the black guy.
Maybe you're not woke enough. I don't know. If you want to make your story about a white boy with anger issues getting a redemption arc, then just make all the rest of the characters white. Because then it's not an issue.
Yeah, something that I don't think a lot of these type of people realize is that when they bring down mandates like this, it actually does the exact opposite of what they want them to do. Because instead of just going, maybe we should do that, they instead go, okay, well, the easier option is to just make everyone white.
Yes. Yes.
Which I don't want to happen, but we're running out of options.
Yeah. Well, this next rule references number 10. I have to go back. Oh, okay. I see.
I just want to wait for Shadow to get back before we move on. You're a huge turd.
You're a huge turd. You're still a huge turd, but slightly less of a turd than the above. Slightly.
Wait, did she actually say that?
Yeah, number 26. So, if we're moving on to number 25 before Shadow gets back, it's kind of something that I do agree with, but not for the reason that she is saying. I don't think most designers justify horny armor by a sexual agency reason. I think they justify it by this is what sells cool. This is what sells games and comic books.
Hey Shadow, while you were gone, we read number 24. Any thoughts on that one?
Alright, if you sideline every non-white character in your cast... okay, this is literally just like a shit talk on Steven Universe future, because they end up sidelighting a bunch of it just for Steven getting over PTSD over shit that happened. I mean, like, the only other, like, example that I've seen would
Steven's
be, like...
a murderer, by the way.
Beg your pardon?
Didn't he kill I know enough to know that he killed Jasper.
Yeah, he had shattered her, yes, but then brought her back because, of course, random bullshit does that. No, the other example that I could... Yeah, it's a long story. Universe Future is really
Glad I've never watched this show.
Dumb thing. Okay, if I had to think of another example for this, would be I know we're gonna end up having to like rag on it at some point later on because I know we want to, but in RWBY, there's like all these vastly more wild characters. There's all these vastly wilder characters, and then apparently the one person who gets a lot of focus really early on is John. So like this would be the only other time that would apply to it, but then like at best I don't even think John qualifies as being specifically a white boy with anger issues. He's more like,
I can't wait for the episode where we shit all over RWBY.
The author surrogate, because like this is also like fact like like I mean like for the most part if you're gonna have like a white boy as the main character, make him interesting. Just don't make him the traditional like they're not always angry, sometimes they're just boring, like I don't know, harem anime or some shit.
Or like harem anime.
Harem anime.
Alright, number 25.
Justifying horny armor designs or horny clothing designs with sexual agency makes you a huge turd. Characters
define horny.
Yes. Define the horny.
Characters don't have sexual agency. That's wrong.
You make them that way as a justification. See Rule 10. Okay, here's the thing, because like I have seen a video where like they point out this point is a Trojan horse opinion, because like they pointed out at first with like they use justifying the armor designs and clothing designs with sexual agency stuff. Like for the most part, like there is like a reason you could make for this, like if the men have like super like practical, if not bulky armor and sort of practical clothes, but then the girls have like the sort of skimpy ones, then like there's sort of a reason. But then the only like walk around for that would be like being equal opportunity for horny character designs. Like there's a reason why stuff like cod pieces were such a huge thing back in the day and stuff like that. But then like the bigger point is like this takes away from the fact that like characters don't have sexual agency, which is something I wholly disagree with. I believe they do. But this might just be the fact that Lily is just looking at characters as just being words on a paper or sketches on a paper and doesn't see anything else to them. Though that might just be me.
This character's more attractive than me and I don't like it.
I don't like that. I don't hate them. I just don't like that they're more attractive than my avatar.
Why are their boobs bigger than mine?
Where the fuck are organs? Okay, never mind.
Oh, the organs? They're in her hips.
I was gonna say there's like 2 lungs somewhere in the chest. There's a heart. They're both surrounded by a rib cage. There's a stomach somewhere in the midriff.
But you know what's more important than all that?
What?
Knowledge.
Yeah. Anyways.
Oh, the whole I will now buy your game. Like that type, those type of like copy pasta shit posts are my favorite. Another one of my favorites is the whole like how to properly talk to short people.
Wrong.
People combine that one with this one.
Oh my god. You know, it's really funny that she points out, like, what she points out in point 25, because she technically points out in 26.
If your justification is to be honest and say you like ogling sexy characters, you're still a huge turd, but slightly less of a turd than the one above. Slightly.
Hey, more power to you if you're honest about it. I think that was Yoko Taro's reason for why there were so many polygons for Tui's ass. It's like, why did you make her skirt so small? It's like, well, okay, first off, I like looking at girls. It's like, yeah, more power to you for being honest about it.
You know, one of my favorite dunks on a game journalist ever. I forgot who it was, but there was a Kotaku games journalist who said that they didn't like the fact that the character designs for like the sorceress or some shit was too sexy. They even compared it to pedophilia for some weird reason. And the actual illustrator for Dragon's Crown actually responded back by drawing a bunch of gay buff men saying, I think this is what he prefers.
Oof. Again, this is mostly just relating to the point, like, if you're gonna have, like, horny armor and clothing designs, like, if you're gonna do it, like...
I agree, it should go both ways.
Equal opportunity.
Like the whole Conan the Barbarian thing where everybody is half naked.
Okay, this next one's gonna be the one that we have at least really genuine genuine thoughts on.
Don't worry about not having everything planned out beforehand. Fuck off!
No writer or creator plans everything beforehand. Really?
Okay, maybe the guy who created One Piece doesn't.
And the ones who say they do are filthy liars. Writers have, at best, 1 to 2 story beats, and they're
Marvel barely got away with this with the MCU. They didn't start planning shit until like halfway through Phase 2.
This is the one that I actually have a lot of grievances with. This is literally like, considering like you got like Slacker knows me well enough to know that I like to discuss and plot out every script that we work on. So this thing gets to me in the fact of like, one, if I have a whole sheet of story beats, damn well know that I'm using all of those fucking beats at one point in this
Half
script.
of the writing process is planning.
All the planning, all the plotting. We really don't fly by the seat of our pants.
Like
that's just not
J.R.R. Tolkien. It's like he spent literally years creating whole languages before he wrote the novels.
I was about to correct you, but knowing J.K. Rowling, she would pull that.
It wouldn't entirely surprise me. Yeah, this is literally the one point that I have like huge disagreements on. I plan, like, it usually helps to like plan out a lot of what you're writing, because
writers have at best 1 to 2 story beats. They're determined to include. Everything else is by the seat of their pants. Do you know how little 1 to 2 story beats is?
1 to 2 story beats is only like
I can actually think of a lot of like television series that began on like a great premise and just went absolutely nowhere.
Okay,
where you know that the writers are like, wow, let's make this great story, and then it's like, I don't know, great, it became popular. What do we do from here? I don't know. But then there's other series where you know that they had stuff planned from the beginning.
You can tell she has like some sort of deep-seated hatred to like serialized stories, because serialized stories are the only ones that actually give a shit about plotting everything out.
I mean, up until like the sixth or so season of Game of Thrones. Up until the 6th season or so of Game of Thrones, everything was planned in that series.
And then season 7 happened.
And then season 7 and 8 happened.
Season 8 was so bad that even normies hate it.
They ran out of books, and Martin's taken too damn long.
No,
everybody loved it because it had a freaking plan.
No. I want to go back to that whole like comment I made just now. Like, even normies hate it. I went to a Renaissance festival for the first time a couple months ago, like back during like spring or summer or whatever. And there was like this troupe of like comedy acrobats or whatever. They made a fucking joke about season 8 of Game of Thrones. Like, that's how infamous it's become.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that happened. So yeah, point 27.
To give you an idea of going back to like how little 1 to 2 story beats is. At best, 1 to 2 story beats is your opening scene and then the scene after that.
Literally, it does not go anywhere further than that.
I mean, even like the hero's journey. The hero's journey, which is like the archetypical story. It's like, it's got like 5 or so beats. It's got like
And no one uses all of them.
No, it's got like the discovery that the hero has some kind of power, and then the meeting,
use it on accident,
and then the meeting with the aged, the aged, the what do you call it? Whatever, and then the first foray into, I don't know. It's like you can look up the hero's journey, and there's at least 5 or 6 of them. Like it's, I don't know, 1 to 2 story beats just seems like, let's just, I don't know, let's make up a, I'm right in the Matrix, and all I have is Neo waking up in his pod and the freaking elevator scene, and I want to do that, and I have no idea what else am I going to do, and let's do it.
No, let me tell you something. I'm writing a story right now, and in it, my 2 story beats is the moment where I get revenge on Jenny, that bitch, and also the moment when Brad finally fucks me.
Oh my god.
What else do you need, man? What else do you need?
I know, right?
You go, girl.
So, point the 28th. This is a funny one.
Wait. While I'm still trying to get that, I want to reiterate one more time. Half of writing is planning. If you do not plan your story, you do not have a story. I'm working on something right now, and not only do I have a whole set of plot points, I have subsets of plot points.
Plot points upon plot points. That is like the big planning thing for major stories. If you don't have any of that written down, you have a thought at best.
Hell, sometimes I even have like little snippets of dialogue that I know I'm probably gonna throw in sometimes. This isn't even at the script writing level yet. This is just like, this is what the basic story points are.
And Slacker can attest. I'm very much the same way when I'm writing script drafts and showing it to him. Like for the most part, it will be like a base skeleton of how the scene's supposed to look, and then there's occasionally like some lines of dialogue that I want to keep in, and then sometimes revise later. For the most part, I have to plot every single scene that happens.
And you know what? That is completely okay. I would rather have too much planning over no planning at all.
Flying by the seat of your pants does not really help.
Measure like twice, the kind of cut thing once.
It seems like the kind of thing somebody would write who doesn't plan themselves, and they just want to justify their own procrastination to themselves.
It's the type of thing that somebody who has no respect for the writing process would say.
And it definitely strikes me that Lily Orchard does not respect the writing process.
Anyway, I'm gonna go get a drink while you get us into point 28.
Here we fucking go, ladies and gents.
Here we fucking go.
Point the 28th. Don't try and, in air quotes, do what Avatar did. You can't. Even the people who made Avatar can't make another show do what Avatar did.
Okay.
This is basically just a jab at Korra.
Okay, so the second sentence.
Yes.
Even the people who made Avatar can't make another show do what Avatar did. 100% agree.
Wording is terrible.
First sentence, don't try and do what Avatar did. 100% disagree. Definitely try and do what Avatar did, because that is how great stories get written. Trying to do what, not trying to copy what another story did, but trying to do what another story did. You get inspired by other stories. I mean, you don't just write a story out of nothing. You're inspired by other things.
I think a really good quote that someone said is like, don't try and don't try and be the next anything. Try and be the first you. Like at best,
Yeah.
Avatar is an inspiration for something. So,
but I mean,
I can see it being.
I
Like,
can
inspiration
see
for the
that, but I
passion for the
mean, take
project,
your
but at the same time,
inspiration
I'm
where you
saying
can
it's
get
like-
it. I mean, there's
Yeah.
something to be said for, everything that has been written has already been written. It's just people are rewriting it in different versions. And
It's
I
funny-
kind of
it
agree
is
with
funny
that.
you say
I mean, every story that has ever been written in its essence has already been written, but people are writing, different versions of that story with different characters and different, subtly different plot points that make it different to people.
There is a great power that comes with like being observant and like observing like media from all other facets to inspire ideas for writing. So like
even if you're not, even if you don't have that mindset, something good that you can do, and even Pixar, and this is actually one of Pixar's rules of screenwriting, or not screenwriting, storytelling. Something they do is that, watch a movie that you like, and then break down why you like it.
Like that would be essentially like what you could do with Avatar instead of like going straight up to try and do what Avatar did, because like in the end, like there's no originality there. Like again, don't try and be the next anything, just try and be the first you.
Well, I don't agree with like try and be the next Avatar. But I mean, when you consider the emotions that Avatar hit and the
passion.
well, the passion is the same kind of the emotions, but also the same issues that Avatar hit on, and the same insecurities of the characters that Avatar hit on. I mean, do that. Do that with your characters. I mean, those are universal. Don't like copy Avatar's plot, but definitely do what Avatar did, because those things are universal. Try and just like steal those things and make them your own in your own story.
Well, I wouldn't say steal. It's that you should boil down the reasons why you like Avatar and then say, okay, I want to apply that to my story, and then you got to figure out, how do I make this work for my story?
Yeah. If you're going to steal it, then be clever about it. I actually remember there's a funny comment where like 0.28 is literally just,
if you're going to steal, A, don't make it obvious, and 2, make sure it fucking works.
I think I remembered someone saying that like 0.28 is literally just pointed to the writers of RWBY.
Honestly, at one point, any anime and say, you did a better job than RWBY did. I think the only anime that did a worse job than RWBY is X-Arm.
Oh god, that RWBY episode.
Yeah,
that RWBY episode is gonna
be.
Yeah,
and technically, yes, that is a I think technically that is a compliment to High Guardian Spice.
There's definitely that quote that fits here. Good artists copy, but great artists steal. You don't want to copy it, but you want to steal what you can from it to make your own work.
How to steal correctly.
Yeah.
All right. This one, it's like, what kind of fuckery is this? Low-stakes interpersonal conflict will always be more satisfying in the long run than high-stakes saving the world. Friends is more popular than your favorite anime for a reason. Well,
but
maybe
I don't want to watch a bunch of people fuck around in some apartment in New York City. I want to see people. I want to see a dude with a scythe sword walk into some futuristic city just trying to destroy a reactor or some shit. Why would I want to watch low-stakes stuff with a bunch of boring people?
Friends is popular amongst white moms and, like, the whitest people in society. Like, even whiter than us.
So, I feel like this is a rule that is totally going for the statistics. Low-stakes interpersonal conflict will always be more satisfying. Maybe it'll make more money, like Friends makes more money than your favorite anime. Although that's arguable too, because I think some animes have made more money than Friends.
Counterpoint,
But,
Seinfeld. Almost no stakes whatsoever.
right.
And yet that show is
there's
funny
lots
as
of low
fuck.
stakes interpersonal conflict in Seinfeld.
Serenity Now.
Yeah, Serenity Now.
Actually, we could probably do an entire episode just going over why Seinfeld was genius.
But the thing with this one is that people like different genres, and I don't have no idea what you guys like, but for me personally, I always will take high stakes saving the world over low stakes interpersonal conflict. Low stakes interpersonal conflict always just seems so tiring to me.
Oh, you want to know what's... You know what I would argue is more popular than Friends?
What?
Breaking Bad.
Okay,
that's true.
That's
true.
That could... a really good point. I was actually gonna say like low stake versus high stake. Like I'm technically in the middle, just so long as you make the stakes interesting and worth my investment in the story.
Yeah,
like,
that's actually, now that I think about it, Breaking Bad actually does a good example of like both low and high stakes.
Both low stakes and high stakes are fine. You just gotta a good chef always knows how to season them well.
Friends is more popular than your favorite anime for a reason. Well, it's because Friends is normie bait.
Of course it is, just normie bait.
Imagine saying this about something else, like fucking Star Trek. There's a reason why Friends is more popular than Star Trek, you fucking nerd.
Oh, you would not go there.
Well, I'm not gonna go there because I don't even agree with that statement. I'm just pointing out, like, what Lily's thing sounds like for me.
So, point the 30th.
Choose whether you're a comedy or a drama at the start and stick to it. Don't make a comedy and turn it into a drama later on. That just annoys me. I mean people.
Wow, so fuck tonal shifts, I guess. I don't know, it just seems really weird because if you choose like what your what you are at the beginning, it sort of pigeonholes you, and that gets kind of a little hard to do after a while because you get to a point where you just get so bored writing it. It's like, fuck it, I just want to make something a little more different.
So just to go back to the previous question for a bit, the link that is posted, list of highest grossing media franchises, Friends is on this list. And then you look at all the stuff that is above it.
Pokemon.
And there is so much like Fate of the World stuff above Friends that it is not even funny.
Let's see. What is at the top? Oh my god, it's... I have a feeling that Star Wars would be much higher on this list if Disney didn't fuck it up.
Friends is on the list. It's in here.
Thanks,
it's in the 5 to 10 billion listing. But there are Sonic the Hedgehog is higher than Friends. It's made more money than Friends.
You know what else has made more money than Friends?
Peanuts.
No, the MCU. Actually,
Barbie has made more money.
Transformers, Spider-Man, Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball is worth $27 billion.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Not only do they save the world, they go around saving other worlds as well.
Anyway, just wanted to say that the whole premise of that question is wrong because Friends is definitely not more popular than your favorite anime. Next question.
Actually, you know what? You know what makes more money than Friends? Jurassic Park.
Both Spider-Man and Batman.
Oh my god. Oh no. I just found something that... Okay, get this. Guess what other anime makes more money than Friends?
Hello Kitty?
Oh, no, I'm talking lower on the list. It's Pretty Cure.
Oh, fuck, that's right!
Halo makes more money than Friends. Minecraft makes more money than... I finally found where Friends is. I'm actually kind of surprised
that... The Sims. Just below The Sims.
I'm actually kind of surprised that Mortal Kombat is below Friends. But Shrek, the true romantic comedy, is above Friends, and for that, I thank the world.
Thank you, world.
Tamagotchi is above Friends.
The Weekly Shonen Magazine, which is literally where every anime gets started.
I love how we just spent I love how we just pulled up a Wikipedia article, and not only did we debunk Lily Orchard, we literally we found non-anime examples that disprove her theory.
Okay, anyway, question 30.
Oh, yeah, there's the drama stuff.
Choose whether you're a comedy or drama at the start and stick to it. Don't make a comedy and turn it into a drama later on that just annoys people. I can agree with that. You don't change genres in the middle of your story.
I would argue for like thematic. I would argue for consistency. It would make sense, but like for like thematic stuff, like if you can definitely see the story and the characters shifting, then like a shift in genre is almost expected to happen.
I don't know about that. I think if you're starting it out as a humorous thing, I mean, you can make it get serious later, but it still has to be humorous. Like Kurt Vonnegut is a good example where he's the kind of guy who writes who wrote anyway novels that started out funny and then they dealt with like a really serious issue, but they were still humorous. They're always humorous. There's always stuff to laugh at. You don't just start as a comedy and you make it like a serious thing where there's nothing to laugh at. I agree with that. You don't change genres in the middle of the story. I mean, there has been I've read stuff where for instance some anime series where a lot of these anime series they start in the Shonen Jump thing start out.
I just read 30. Okay, so I just looked ahead and 32. You know what? I'll save it for when we get to it.
But I've read like anime series where they started out as like a humorous thing, and they're like, "Wow, this is really great," and then I guess they get like orders from the higher ups. Oh, hey, this anime series isn't doing that well. Wrap it up. And then they get really serious, and the story gets really serious, and they're like, oh, this and this happens, and they fight the bad guy, and it's like, well, it's kind of like this isn't really what I signed up for, and I didn't really like how it ended. I kind of was in it for the comedy and stuff, and I kind of get where that is going for. If you choose a genre, stick with it. I kind of agree with that one.
I will slightly respectfully disagree. I think it's fine if it's a slow burn. If it's a sudden tonal shift, then yeah, that's poor planning. Two, that kind of just blindsides people. But if it's something that happens gradually, like
annoys people.
Yeah, because I can actually think of Harry Potter being a good example of this actually working.
Potter's not a comedy. Harry Potter is a drama
Right, but the thing is, like,
relief.
the early ones were a little more lighthearted, and then it's got slightly darker as each installment went on.
But they weren't. Yeah, well, I mean, I can see what you're saying, but I'm kind of considering what she's actually saying, like a comedy versus drama, and they are. You can have like a funny drama and a kind of serious comedy, but there's like a 100% difference between something that's a comedy and something that's a drama. And
Yeah, it would make sense.
if you start writing a comedy and then it turns into a drama, that's a big turnoff.
Yeah,
I mean, I can see
that it makes sense.
Yeah,
like I sit here and say that like genre is mostly just a reference guide. I say this also like having experience as a genre writer, so.
Number 31, world building is like a salt. A pinch can make it better, 10 cups of it will not.
As someone who does world building, I can actually agree with this. See, because because the thing with it is like, if you have it and you know how to like use it and you can pepper it into the story, but you can do it well enough that you don't have to rely on shit like exposition for pushing your story forward, like, so like you focus so heavily on the world building that you end up foregoing the narrative just for exposition, then you're kind of missing the point of the world building. The world building is not really supposed to be like this huge thing that it's supposed to be in the foreground of the story. It's meant to be more of what's happening in the background. So
yeah.
Okay, so okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say a lot of people tend to forget that world building is sort of like a background thing and not entirely something that should be taking the driver's seat compared to the narrative of the story. So like, and this,
yeah,
and
that
again, this is like leading into like weaving your world building in like cleverly enough that it doesn't feel like you're forcing exposition.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, okay, this world build. That's why when I get like projects from you guys, like I'm like, okay, this world building is great, but what's the story like?
So for me, this is one of those rules of Lily Orchard that I find says zero, that says nothing. Because how much is a pinch and how much is 10 cups of it? Who says how much is too much? You know, like how much is 10 cups of it will not make your world better. Right? So how much is 10 cups? What is too much of it? You know what I mean? She's not really saying anything here. Like, it's like she's just saying, you know, a little bit will make it good, but too much will make it not. But I mean, okay, so too much will make it not good, but how much is too much?
Yeah,
you know, she's not saying anything. She's not saying anything in this rule.
Yeah,
because too much of anything will make your narrative bad. But how much is too much world building? Because in J.R.R. Tolkien, or you know, in the Lord of the Rings, you know, like pretty much like 50% of all the novels was just world building, like random shit about, you know, oh, this guy was doing this thing and this city and blah 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 blah, you know, and it was describing what, you know, like what such and such, the history of such and such town or such and such city, and that was, you know, it became an incredible series. And a lot of series, a lot of fantasy series followed in J.R.R. Tolkien's footsteps, and they became very popular too. So I mean, how much world building is too much? She never says how much is too much. It's just, oh, if you do too much, then it's bad. But too much, if you don't define how much is too much, then it's really, I don't think this says anything.
I think what she meant to say was like exposition of world building. Like a pinch of it can make it better, 10 cups of it will not. Because there is a little rule I have where when you tell the audience is just as important as if you tell the audience.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is mostly just an argument on like people who confuse world building for becoming like presence for the um taking presence over the narrative, which is something that like you really shouldn't do. I mean, I say this despite like my thing with world building, because like considering the next point that's there, like
My okay, 32. Character should always come before anything else. My biggest problem isn't with this tip itself, it's how far down the list it is.
So far down the list. Okay, so like in regards to like,
it depends on what kind of story you're writing. I agree, characters are incredibly important, but there's times where I wouldn't put it as number one. See, I write a lot. The stuff I work on is very character focused, so that's a big focus for me. However, that's not going to be the case for everybody. But for most people, I would say having it as like a solid 2 or a 3 is fine.
I sit here saying that like I have a good fascination with world building, because I also consider like developing the characters as an aspect of world building, because they are entities that exist in the world, so it would only make sense that they count as part of world building as I am developing them. Or that's kind of my just thoughts on it. But aside from how low this is in the how low she has this on the totem pole, I would definitely agree with this point. I definitely agree that character, at least having a rough idea for the characters that you want is very important for what story you're going to be writing.
I mean, yeah. So there's those archetypical like conflict thing where there's like man versus man and man versus nature and man versus machine, or man versus and those are the archetypical conflict things, and most of them have to do with characters. There are some of them that don't have anything to do with characters at all, but most of them have you know something to do with characters, so that it's something that it's pretty much a given with any story. I don't think it's always, but very much most of the time.
Yeah. So, if there are no more additional thoughts to be said on this point, point the 33rd.
33. Now, this one I directly disagree with. The protagonist should be a protagonist, not just a vessel for the antagonist to hog the story. If you're going to make a villain protagonist, just open with that.
Fun fact, actual writing terminology does not refer to them as villain protagonists. They refer to them as anti-heroes. But
yes.
Aside from the point,
now, this person has never read the book The Sea Wolf, which is literally the greatest. There's a protagonist in it, but the protagonist is just a vessel for the antagonist to hog the story. And the antagonist hogging the story is basically the story is the first half of it is just it it will consume you. It is incredible. And then the second half of the story, the author kind of just lets it all just unravel. But the first half of the story is like it's this guy gets shanghaied onto a ship, and the captain is the antagonist, and he is like the most ruthless captain of a ship that you've ever encountered. Like he'll like knife a guy for looking at him the wrong way, right? And the protagonist tries to stay on the guy's good side, and there's a mutiny, but the mutiny fails and that kind of thing, and the whole thing is just about this captain and he's the bad guy, and you want to know this about this bad guy. It's like this crazy. You want to know that you want him to fail, but at the same time you want to keep knowing like is he gonna, because he has his own philosophy, like not quite like the might makes right and that kind of thing, but he has his own philosophy, and it's like you want him to be wrong, but he's so right all the time, and it's like, oh, it's why is he always winning all the time? And it's just it just gets in your head, and it's that kind of that kind of book that puts the lie to this rule, because the antagonist is just the reason for that story. And if you look it up, it's called The Sea Wolf. It's one of the best books I ever read, except for the second half. The second half, it goes off on a tangent.
So,
But the
so yeah,
first,
my big thing with this point is that like it makes it sound like the protagonist should just well, okay, I say this because like if a character is an anti-hero, then make them an anti-hero. But then again, there's also like another example that's supposed to be here, and it's like Alistair the radio demon from Hasbin Hotel,
yeah,
and like his thing with Charlie. So I think that might have been a thing that sort of inspired this point. And then I'm also sitting here and I'm like, okay, but like, what if there's a story where there's not really a main protagonist per se, and there's just a bunch of characters. Like if I'm recalling correctly, like some anime that I watch, like Bakano or Durarara, don't actually have a main character. Like they just have like a wide selection of them, ranging from Mikado and his friends to Mizaya and his shit with Chizuo and the head that he has, Shinra and Celti. There's not really a lot of central protagonists, and when you really like get down to it, a lot of the characters are kind of screwed in the head, and it's really peculiar. Like a lot of them aren't really good people,
yeah,
which is kind of the point. Like Bakano, like has them like most of the main casts that you follow are all mobsters anyway. So like there's that. And there's like there's generally really good appeal for that. So yeah, that's really my thing. Like I like if the protagonist is gonna be the protagonist, then like if they're gonna be an anti-hero, make them an anti-hero. I see no reason to like make them immediately a goody two shoes and stuff like that. And if like they're gonna have like on and off stuff with the antagonist, then they're gonna have on and off stuff with the antagonist. Walter
yeah,
White's a really good example of an anti-hero sort of situation for that.
yeah. And I can kind of understand what they're saying, where the antagonist hogs the story. But I mean, if you're actually trying to say something about like what the antagonist is doing, or say, like trying to make a point, there's nothing wrong with having the antagonist dominating a story.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I don't see anything wrong with with the antagonist taking up a little bit of time, which would sort of make sense. Helps flesh them out and characterizes them well enough compared to other stuff that goes on. But that's just my thoughts on it anyway.
Anyway, 34.
Oh yep. Point the 34th. Perspective shifts are a staple of storytelling. Having only one perspective isn't a stylistic choice, it's just crap.
So I wholly disagree with this, because what perspective you tell a story from is pretty much like what the story is. So you can
Yes.
tell a story, from multiple perspectives, and that's what a story is. But there's also something to be said for stories that are just told from one perspective. And most short stories are told from just one perspective. And there are plenty of novels that are just told from one perspective. So I don't there's plenty of stories where perspective shifts are valuable, and to see like different parts of like the plot and stuff. But there's plenty plenty of examples of novels and short stories and even like some comic series or I guess television series to a lesser extent, because television series are mostly multiple perspectives. But I mean,
If
for
I'm
narrative
recalling,
stuff, it's there are plenty of examples of stuff where there's just one perspective and that's it, and that's all there is, and it's great fiction.
if I'm recalling correctly, things that do a lot of perspective shifting is when like you're changing characters in a video game, or if you're changing perspectives in a story. Like visual medium is like prone to like do shifts in perspectives for stuff like that. I don't know if this is supposed to be like a jab at Steven Universe specifically for the fact that the story most. We are
34.
on number 34, which is perspective. Yeah, we. Yeah, might as well.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Thoughts?
I was saying that if you want to read the story that puts the lie to that, read The Seawolf by Jack London, where the protagonist is literally a nobody and the antagonist is the whole story. And that's it makes the story incredible. Yep. Yes. Like I said, there's plenty of novels and especially short stories that are just told from one perspective. And so why is that not a stylistic. Yeah.
Yeah, the reason she's bringing this up is the fact that, like, one, this is a jab at Steven Universe because for most of Steven Universe, the story is from Steven's perspective, so you don't know anything about what's happening to the other characters because the narrative is following Steven around through episodic adventures in wherever the fuck he's living, and like this episodic stuff, and like not even counting like the drama that's supposed to be happening in the background. So this is supposed to be a jab at that, but then there's also the fact that, like, to be fair, like I remembered hearing that having like one perspective certainly really helps for certain genres. Like if it's for a or for a horror story, it feels really oppressive and disempowering to be in one perspective the whole time. So it kind of adds to the tension in some way. So I can agree with this. I can also say that someone who does like write stuff that's not scripts, character shifts are usually or perspective shifts are usually interesting to explore like events and
Wow, I forgot
personality and
I
thoughts of other
I forgot to
characters.
unmute myself. They heard you guys.
You've been talking this whole time, haven't you?
Well, no, that's the thing. I muted myself when I went in BRB, but I forgot to unmute myself when I got back.
Okay, so.
But anyway, Cools, I think this is going to be the last one we do for tonight.
Okay.
Seems good. And this one is a doozy. Sort of.
I was going to say, like, after 34.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, only having one perspective can actually really work because it forces you to put... It forces you in order to put focus on particular parts. Because when you only have one viewpoint, that means that you have to give... That means you have to have everything through the lens of that character.
True.
Which is, like, literally the selling point of hundreds of great novels. Like Catcher in the Rye is told from just the point of view of the one character.
Not even that, but having mostly one perspective can actually solve a lot of exposition problems if you write it correctly. Because instead of having like a big opening explaining how the world works, you can basically have like the main character go through it and have him learn, or he or whoever your main character is, you can have them learn how the world works at the same time the audience does, and so it makes it feel like we're learning it along with them.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, basically speaking.
I feel like the next rules.
Well, we're gonna save that for next time.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, I feel like the next rules start getting into really the cartoon, the specific cartoon related stuff.
There's a lot of stuff. Like you'll notice, like going forward, there's a lot of points where the points will drag on, or sometimes repeat.
I don't like how Steven Universe did this.
Essentially speaking. Did Steven kiss the diamonds when I wasn't looking? That's peculiar.
So yeah, with that, we are going to take a break from Lily for now. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Thank you for putting up. If you tried checking this out live, sorry about the technical difficulties.
We sincerely apologize.
Our technical difficulties be that way.
But on behalf of the Brainfreezerrr podcast, I've been Slacker.
I've been CoolsHisHands.
I've been Shadow Angel.
Alright, good night, everybody.
Sleep well, ladies and gents.
Don't let the bed bugs bite.
Unless this comes out at, like, lunch.
Oh, yeah. Then enjoy your cheese and crackers.
I guess.